All right, guys. Well, welcome into In the Zone, episode 2. We're really excited. It is week 3 of high school football. We have a ton of games tomorrow night and some really exciting college games. Zach and I were up in Pittsburgh last weekend at the Backyard Brawl. That was pretty incredible. Zach, what did you think about it?
It was awesome. It was a ton of fun. Not the result that WVU fans were hoping for, but if you are a Pitt fan, which they're not going to be a lot in this area, but they went home happy. But hey, Marshall beat Pitt in soccer, so kind of a West Virginia on Pitt supremacy right there, but it was a ton of fun.
And what's crazy about the Marshall win in soccer is they not only took down the number 2 team in the country in Pitt, but the dude who scored both goals, they won it 2-1. Matthew Bell is a true freshman from Jamaica. He's insane. He's only played 4 games now, has 4 goals for Marshall, so he's definitely a player to watch. But we'll get to college later. Right now, we're going to start with high school, obviously. Tomorrow night, we'll have a Friday night sports zone again, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, we're actually going to have it here in West Virginia this time, so we'll be in the studio, not on the boat.
Yeah, we'll be back in the studio. I don't know if you guys saw, but last Friday night, we were out on Brian's boat up in Pittsburgh doing it live from up there. It was awesome. I think it turned out pretty good. We had a bunch of highlights, people back here helping us out, so that was great. But this week's game of the week, this is an interesting one. Herbert Hoover at Nitro. Now, Hoover is entering this game 0 wins, 0-2. Nitro on the flip side is 2-0, which is a huge start for them. Now, this one's interesting. So Hoover is coming off of a very close loss against Winfield. Hoover did not score until the bottom of the third. At that point, they were able to put up 2 touchdowns, bring it within 1 point. They missed the extra point. So unfortunately for them, they're really upset right now. They're frustrated. They have a chip on their shoulder. So I do think they're going to come in and be really strong in this one. So who did you say you think Hoover?
I think it's Hoover.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. Nitro, it's their first home game.
Second home game. They beat St. Albans.
Right. But they're going to have a really big home crowd. I mean, like we said, 2-0 doesn't happen often. A lot of people are going to come out for that. So they do have the home crowd on their side. But I do think Hoover's just too upset right now. So
yeah, and especially, their first 2 games to start the year was Winfield and Scott. That's a tough draw back to back.
Right.
And so they're kind of on opposite sides. Nitro, they did beat Polka, but we don't know what Polka is so far this year.
Right.
And it's going to be hard for us to spoiler alert for a second. It's going to be hard for us to see what Polka is when they're facing Independence. And so I don't know. Hoover's not bad. Hoover's not bad at all. I think it's just more or less they've been playing some really good teams right now. But I think this is a big measuring stick for Nitro. Yes, they did beat Polka, and that kind of shocked a lot of us.
Right.
But then Polka got beat pretty bad by Chapmanville, so we don't know if Nitro is that good or if it's just they were able to get those wins, and those are very good wins. They were 6-3 in St. Albans. They lost last year. They scored 37 on them, and they've got a young quarterback there that we're excited to see go.
Yeah, definitely. And we do have a full feature story. We interviewed, as Zach said, both head coaches and a couple players. We have that full feature story on our website, so go ahead and check that out if you'd like to. But yeah, it is our game of the week. I'm really excited. Always love a chance to see the Wildcats and the Huskies go head-to-head.
Absolutely.
Moving on, we do have a powerhouse game happening out in Hurricane. They're hosting George Washington. This is a battle of the 2 unbeaten. Now, we did go back and forth with whether we should make this one our game of the week or Hoover and Nitro. We did already have Hurricane as one of our games of the week, and then next week, GDub's probably going to face one of the Huntington schools, so we might have that as our game of the week. But it is the battle of the 2 unbeatens. Abe Fenwick, obviously the quarterback for GDub, is incredible, probably one of the best quarterbacks in the MSAC, if not the best. And then Giacomo, we saw that sophomore wide receiver do big things last week. So who do you have in this one?
We're running into the point where we're probably going to have both these 2 teams as our games of the week. We don't want to, as much as we like Hurricane, we can't go there every single week as our game of the week.
Right.
I think this is Hurricane. GDub won 35-14 last year. Obviously with Hurricane, with Mondrell Dean, some of those new guys that they've gotten in there, and Coach Mays. The bus, the literal school bus. So Donnie Mays really well. You know how good of a coach he is. I just think with Hurricane and not even Mondrell Dean, I don't remember the other running back that scored 1,000,000 times versus Winfield in the first half. So they have multiple guys that can do it. I think the home factor really helps. And as much as I think GDub is really, really good this year, they did struggle a little bit with Ashland. Ashland's a solid team too, and we don't know Cabell Midland just yet. We're waiting on them because they were off last week. We don't know. I'm sticking to Hurricane. I really think they're going to win this one. I think they're in for good things this year.
Yeah, I mean, George Washington is also kind of coming off of an emotional win. I mean, they beat Cabell by 1 touchdown, and that made head coach Steve Edwards the winningest coach in all of Kanawha County. We actually have some video from that one. But yeah, so this game was just so incredible. It was a nail biter down to the end. I mean, they were standing on the 10-yard line with 10 seconds on the clock. You can't write a better storybook ending. GDub made the stop. It was Giacomo, the wide receiver I was talking about. Well, he also plays on the flip side, and he made the big stop that ultimately won the game for GDub. So really strong player right there, really strong defense. But like I said, they are coming off of an emotional win, and it'll be hard. It'll be hard to go to Hurricane and beat the Skins out there. But Steve Edwards, he's a legendary coach.
Hurricane
so who knows?
Absolutely mauled Capital this past week. I think it was 48-0. But I think their offense is rolling. They've got 40 points in both their games, I'm pretty sure, so far to start the year. So I'm just going to roll with the home team. And I don't mean to pick. I'm not going to pick the home team every single time. I'm really buying what Hurricane is selling me right now.
Yeah, I'm going to actually go against you. I'm going GDub.
You're picking out of your backyard.
I'm going GDub. Even though, like I said, they're coming off of an emotional win, all this stuff. It is Steve Edwards, like I keep saying, and Abe Fenwick, the best. That's a dude you want to have under center right there. So I'm going with that. My only note, by the way, I wrote down for Hurricane is Hurricane has the bus, which is what we call Mondrell. So Mondrell, if you're watching, that's what I've called you for the past year. Okay, moving on. Buffalo at Mount View. Buffalo has gotten outscored in their past 2 games, 85-19. Against Greenbrier West and Petersburg. Now, they're both solid programs, so don't let the score. I mean, Buffalo could still very well hang in there. But Mountain View on the flip side, I don't know a whole lot about them so far this year. They had a huge loss to Man, 39-7, which is kind of incredible because, as we talked about, Man lost a lot of people last year, so we thought this was kind of a rebuilding year for Man, but they went and put a beat down on Mount View. But last year they finished 11-2.
Well, that's the thing with Class A football is that if you lose a strong senior class, that will wipe you out. I think one of the issues that we saw at Van, who is 2-0 by the way.
Shout out the Bulldogs.
Yeah, so is Tug.
Yeah.
But they've only got about 20 or so players on that roster. So when you lose a lot of guys from graduation, that really hurts. So we know a lot about Man's issues right now. Mountain View may be in the wrong that same thing because they're in McDowell County. That's one of the lowest population areas in all of West Virginia. Buffalo has not looked good. They have a new head coach, and they got thrashed in both of their games. But again, they're playing some really good teams. The last time these teams faced was actually in 2020. Buffalo won this one 27-0. That is a long drive. Because I think Mount View is in Welch. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
But from Buffalo to Mount View, that is going to be a long drive. I think Mount View wins this one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. As we said, Buffalo, it's hard to tell what they can be because, like we said, they've played 2 really good programs the past 2 weeks. But, yeah, I think the drive, especially, these are high school kids when you're driving hours to a game. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, thankfully the furthest we ever had to drive was to Valley Center, and it was like 45 minutes, maybe an hour. But I remember getting off that bus, man, your legs are cramping. You do not want to run at that point, no matter how much Eminem you're playing in your ears. You can't get hype at that point.
We drove 3 hours for a track meet, so we had mush legs getting off to run track.
Yeah.
Because we were on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And,
it does. It takes a toll when you have to travel far.
We went to Golden Corral afterwards, so we made it work.
There you go. There you go. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Moving on. Wayne at Logan. I'm kind of bummed about Wayne,
Battle
Zach.
of the first names.
I'm kind of bummed about Wayne. It's their 100th season. I was really hoping for them to have, a solid season. They did host Scott in their home opener to kick off their 100th season. That is a very tough team to host and kick off your season with, especially when you have a player like Jaden Sharps, who we made our player of the week this week.
We're learning a lot about Scott, and we know him and Matt Fry. They've got some dudes on that team.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah, I'm not really sure. What are you thinking in this one?
I'm going to go with the team with the first name. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with Logan. This was actually really close last year. It was only a 7-point game. Logan's defense has allowed just 13 points this year. They allowed just 7 to man opening week. And then last week at Sissonville they only allowed 6 points. And so those kids in Logan County, they know how to play some defense. Man knows how to play some defense. Tug knows how to play some defense. Mingo only allowed 6 points. That is some blue-collar football right there. They hung with Polka last year. Logan wins this one, and I feel bad. I do not think this will be very close. Maybe 14 to 20 points. I think this could be a good year for them.
Yeah, definitely. I want to give a shout out to staying with Logan, to Logan's Aiden Slack. Get this. He had 3 touchdowns last week, a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and a pick 6. So this guy...
Real triple threat.
Yes.
Right there.
Talk about a triple threat. So definitely Aiden Slack is someone to keep your eyes on Friday night with Logan, but I also don't think it's going to be very close, unfortunately. I think Logan walks away with a comfortable, probably 21 point win.
And we're not doubting Wayne here. They looked really good against Tulsa.
Yeah.
But
when you're going up against Scotts and Logans and
those are, it's always going to be a tough schedule. This part of the state is just really, really good at football.
Yes, I agree. And plus we love our Logan County people. Okay, moving on. Chapmanville at Winfield. Now Winfield, as we mentioned off the top of the show, had that close win over Hoover. Chapmanville is 2-0 right now. They had statement wins over Sissonville and Polka. Obviously, Chapmanville has the 2 tall guys and Brody Dalton and Caleb Witt, so they're going to be very, very tough to stop. Zach, who do you have in this?
I'm really excited about this one, and I'm actually going to go Winfield on this one, and I think this one is actually going to be really close because we're waiting kind of to see if Chapmanville is all that, or if it's just they played an easier schedule. I know Sissonville is having a little bit of a down year so far, and I know they've got some talent, especially at the quarterback position with Ethan Taylor. Chapmanville, that when I was there, because I was there for the Sissonville game, they came out a little slow. I think clearly they had a lot more talent than Sissonville. They just made a little bit of mistakes. And so there was a couple fumbles here and there, and that allowed Sissonville to capitalize. They looked really solid after that. They looked really solid against Polka. On the opposite side, we know about Winfield and obviously Hurricane. And I mean, that's just 3A and 2A schools. It's hard. Yeah. And so we understand that. And so I think Winfield's very motivated after that. And they went on the road in Falling Rock, which is a very tough place to play, especially on that grass, that turf. I was talking to Joey Fields about that yesterday. I said, are you gonna enjoy that turf next year? He said he's looking forward to it.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because that plays a little slow. But Winfield with their option attack, I really like it. I think they've got the chance to put up points. I think Chapmanville hangs, and I think this one is going to be a good one. Yeah. I'm going Winfield.
You're going Winfield?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close one as well. I do think Brody Dalton, I mean, we've been following him for a couple of years now. He's in his senior year with the Tigers. I think he's hungry. I mean, I know that he wants to take this program, you know, through the state tournament. I mean, most teams, obviously, every team obviously wants to get to the Super Six, but I think with Chapmanville, there's just a lot of heart there. They've been through a lot, as we mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago. You know, with COVID, they got really hit in that area. They couldn't play a full season for the past 2 years. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of heart there. I know they're playing at Winfield, which is a very tough place to play. I mean, when I was at that Hurricane Winfield game, it was at Winfield, and the announcer came on the announcements and said, "If you're pregnant or have a heart problem, this is not the place for you."
That guy, I don't know his name, but that PA guy loves to talk, and that's a good thing because he's really
hilarious.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
We love him. But yeah, so it is a tough place to play. But I don't know. Chapmanville travels as well. I'm going to go Chapmanville in this one. I'm going Chapmanville. All right, Williamstown at Ravenswood. Now, Ravenswood lost last week to St. Mary's 56-13. Ravenswood is kind of struggling so far this season. Williamstown does have 2 wins, but over Ohio schools, so they haven't played West Virginia school yet. Who do you have in this one?
I'm going to go with Williamstown.
Me too.
This was a 27-point win. Ravenswood, man, they beat the brakes off of Magnolia week 1, and I think that's I don't think Magnolia is a very good school. And they ran into a tough St. Mary's school.
St. Mary's is always strong.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, what was it? Them in Roane County were like 6-0 last year, so like that's just defensive football. Williamstown undefeated, 27-point win last year. I'm just gonna go with them. I think it's easy to make the safe pick there.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that one. I mean, Williamstown, it is at Ravenswood, and I do know they love their football down there. It's gonna be a lot of people at that game, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Williamstown on that one. And then this one, Cabell Midland at Capital. Now, you guys, Capital has not scored yet this season. They've been outscored 107-0.
Yes.
So they're really struggling, so far this season. As we know, Cabell Midland is very strong. They did have that bye last week. They lost a close one to GDub. So they haven't had a win yet, but it's Cabell Midland's, it's Coach Salmons. I mean, they're very competitive. Obviously, this is going to be a tough one, I think.
It's funny because Capital only they gave some fits to Cabell Midland last year. You were at that game, and I remember you were gonna go to it, and you're like hoping that you can get some quick scores because these are not very evenly matched teams. But it ended up being a defensive game. You got like a couple interceptions in there.
Yeah, great for the highlights.
Capital's home opener, man, they got beat up pretty good against Parkersburg and Hurricane, but those are good teams.
Yeah.
This is another good team.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that offense is coming up because GDub, man, especially against Blazer or Ashland, they really look like they can have a really solid defense. So we'll see. Coach Salmons, especially off of a bye, you can't count them out. I think all of us can say but we assume that Cabell Midland's going to win.
Right.
We just don't know how close it will be. But I'm going with the Knights.
Right. Yeah, I'm going with the Knights too. We talk about Chandler Schmidt kind of left some big shoes to fill, and I think they are doing that. I mean, they have 2 running backs that are both very strong. So I do think that, and I just realized I forgot to click on the highlights. So we're going to check out some Ravenswood highlights really quick.
I didn't want to tell you.
Going back to that, still trying to get used to the setup, you guys, and honestly, we'll get it. We'll get it eventually. But yeah, Ravenswood, as we said, they're kind of struggling this season. Had that loss to St. Mary's, and Williamstown is just 2-0, and I think
we'll show you the highs of Ravenswood football right here.
Right, exactly.
This is really solid.
Man, I remember being at that game. I went down there. That was when they played Summers County. That one was talk about a slugfest. It was I think 6-3 was that final.
It's always a good time up in Ravenswood.
Yeah. My man, Hillbillies.
Who'd you pick in Cabell and Capital?
Oh, Cabell.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought
going
so.
With the Knights. Going with the Knights, yeah. West Side at Man. Now, as we mentioned, Man is kind of like a tricky one because we thought they're in a rebuilding year, but then, they had a really big win last week. So who do you have in this one?
It ain't gonna be a West Side story come tomorrow night.
Oh gosh.
Remember what I said last week? God made man, and he made them Billies. This one was a slaughter last year, and I put that lightly. It was 49-14. Man, they're gonna do it again. I really think so. You can't root against the Billies.
Yeah.
I mean, when they're playing our local team, it doesn't matter who wins in that one, but against a team that we don't really cover, let's go Billies.
Yeah, we're going Billies. The other thing, too, is this is at Man, and you Billy fans are crazy. So I'm always going to side with Man if they're at home because, I just got to do that. So going Man on that. All right, Sissonville at
Before we got
Scott.
We got video of Man.
Whoops. I guess we do.
Yep.
think this is Sissonville. Yep.
This is Sissonville. Well, that's perfect. Let's talk about them.
All right, guys. Sissonville at Scott. As we mentioned, Scott is obviously a danger this year. Sissonville on the flip side, kind of a rebuilding year. You went and interviewed the quarterback, 2 weeks ago?
Yep, a couple weeks ago.
Ethan Taylor. Yeah, so he's in his second year as the starting quarterback, right?
Yeah, he kind of came on a little bit late last year. He's a junior this year, so he has a little bit more of experience than a junior may have.
Yeah, and Scott, here's Jaden Sharps right here. Check out this run. He's just incredible. I mean, he was our player of the week last week.
Thanks for tweeting at us.
Everything, yeah. By the way, shout out Jaden. Yeah, he's just doing incredible, as you said. Matt Fry under center, those two right there. They're a dual threat. I'm going Scott. I mean, I don't really think there's a question. It's in Madison. I saw their Instagram
Home
account.
opener too, yeah.
Yeah, their Instagram account tweeted out this super hype video, trying to get everyone hyped for the home opener. So, I'm going Scott on this one, and I really don't think it's going to be close. I'm thinking like 50 to something.
I think they put up 40. I don't think they put up 50, but I think Sissonville gets a couple touchdowns in there.
Yeah, I mean, I do think they'll get a couple touchdowns, but they are going to put up 50.
I'm gonna say high 30s, low 40s, but I think Scott runs away with it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, St. Albans at Riverside. This one is going to be a tough one. St. Albans is obviously, it's a rebuilding year. They have a first-year head coach, and as we mentioned before, I mean, that coach told me at media days that he had 20 kids on the roster who had never touched a football before.
Nice.
It kind of shows. They played Nitro last week, Battle of the Bridge. Nitro ran away with it. They actually had to call off the game in the fourth quarter because a St. Albans kid got injured. So, you know, they're just really struggling this year. It's a rebuilding year. Riverside, they haven't had a win yet, right?
No, they lost to Woodrow Wilson. They were down 28-0. And then scored 28 of 31, and they lost only by 3.
Yeah.
And so it shows the heart of an Alex Doherty team. And then I believe they were up in Parkersburg last week, and that's just a tough game.
Parkersburg, I mean, really any of the parks, as I like to call it, Parkersburg South, Parkersburg, Big Reds, like, I mean, they're just hard to play up there.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'm going Riverside on this one. I think they're hungry. They need their first win, and they want it bad. So. And
this is where we run into the issue of both these teams, 3A schools. Someone's going to have to struggle. And when you play Hurricane, when you play Cabell Midland, when you play Huntington and Spring Valley, it's a gauntlet, and it really is. And so I was at this game last year, and it was not very pretty. It was more of a defensive game. Riverside had a couple picks in this one. I think they get it done, especially in Bell. In St. Albans, it's going to be a tough year for them.
Yeah.
And so I think Riverside wins. And I think it'll be kind of about the same as last year. 22-7 was what it was last year. I think it'll be about 28-7, 28-3 maybe, around that range. I just think St. Albans, it's hard. They're not putting up points right now, and they're facing good teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They're in a really, like you said, a really hard conference, have a really hard schedule. And for a team that's rebuilding who has 20 kids on the roster that have never played, I mean, it's very hard to find some victory. Okay, Roan at Clay. Now, we also talked about making this one potentially our game of the week as well, because both of these teams are 2-0.
Yep.
They're both very strong. We love us some Roan County, Clay County action.
Yep.
Who do you have in this one?
This one is going to be good. See, this is weird because this was a forfeit last year. This one didn't even happen. Clay had to forfeit, and I don't know if it was COVID issues or roster numbers. I'm not entirely sure.
Right.
I hope we're out of the COVID mess by now.
Yeah, me too, man.
Roan has looked really, really good this year. Where am I? It's at. They won 30-20 against the St. Mary's team. That's really good. They shut out Lincoln County 36-0, but Clay has put up 36 points or more in both their games. So they look good too, and usually I'd give the edge to the home team. I think Roan County gets it done.
Really? Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm going to flip the script on you here, Zach. I'm going Clay.
Oh, man.
And the reason, Joe Fitz. No.
Our Procious pal.
Yeah, our buddy Joe Fitzwater.
Our pal from
you guys
Procious.
know
I
who
like
he
that
is.
one.
Yeah, no. I'm going Clay. Again, when you have two evenly matched programs like this.
Both playoff teams, too.
Yeah, yes. And it's easy, but it is easy to go with the home team because, I know Roan travels. Don't get me wrong. Those Raiders fans, they're all over the place. But I do think Clay walks away with this
and
one.
I can't fault you for making that pick. I think those are both really solid teams. I know Clay, they were up. They were home against Philip Barber, and so 36 points or more. They both scored 30 or more points in both their games.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about this one.
Well, and I'm excited too because I think it will be a higher scoring game where in the past we've seen Roan and Clay both kind of, run the ball. It's a little bit of a slower offense. Like they don't really get in the end zone that often. It's more of a defensive battle. But yeah, I'm very excited about that one. I think it's going to be a close one. Then Lincoln County at Ripley. Ripley, as we've mentioned before, rebuilding this year. Lincoln County, I feel like every year they're kind of a shocker. Like they could beat a really good team. They could lose to a really bad team. Like you don't really know what you're getting with Lincoln County. So this one, I'm not gonna lie, I'm shooting in the dark a little bit. What about you? Who do you
Lincoln
think is gonna
County
be?
has played an absolutely brutal schedule to start the year. They were at Princeton week 1.
Yep.
And they did not perform very well. Princeton, they're good. They also played Roan week 2. So that's murderer's row right there. Ripley, they got beat by Brook week 1, and then they almost beat Buchanan Upshur. That was their only win last year, was Buchanan Upshur.
Ripley's.
Yeah, and so Lincoln won this game 50-21. That was in West Hamlin last year. I think it's easy to look at 0-2 to think, oh, Lincoln's not very good. They've just played really, really good teams.
Yeah.
And so I'm going with Lincoln. And I feel bad for Ripley because they've had their fair share of struggles, and you don't want to see a team lose every game.
Right.
And so the sad part about this is that a team is going to go 0-3, but a good part about this is someone's going to get a win. And that's great. And so I think Lincoln wins. And I think it'll be pretty close.
Yeah, I do think it'll be close too. Like you said, Ripley almost had that win last week. I'm going to go Ripley. I think it's time for the Vikings. I think hopefully they'll put something together over there in Ripley. Again, it's the home team. I know I sound like a broken record saying that, but those Vikings fans, and that facility is insane up there too.
Oh, they got probably one of the best football fields in all of Southern West Virginia.
I know. It is so beautiful up there. If you guys haven't been up there, definitely check it out. Okay, so we're split on that one too. We are keeping track of these, by the way.
Yeah. 13-5 last week.
You were 13-5?
13-5.
Gosh, I don't even know what I was. I need to look it up.
We're gonna have to review the tape.
Yeah, play back the tape. All right, Independence at Polka. Who do you have in this one?
I don't think we'll be split on this one.
No.
And Polka has looked like a completely different team so far. And again, we were talking about this earlier. Is it more that Polka's taking a step back, or are they just running into solid teams? And that game against Nitro, man, that was winnable because we looked at the play that bounced through the Polka defender's hands right into the Nitro player. That easily could have swung a Polka win. Independence, man, I think a lot of people, after Hoover got bounced the first round of the postseason, I think a lot of people were picking Independence as their team to win it all, and they just ran into Fairmont Senior.
Right.
And Fairmont Senior,
it's Fairmont Senior.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were probably the best 16 seed team ever, or what was it, 15 seed? Regardless, they were very, very good.
It's like right now how Martinsburg's the class of AAA, Fairmont has been the class of AA for quite some time.
Yes.
Independence, where are my notes here? Independence is outscoring opponents 100-0 this year. A 60-0 win over Liberty Raleigh, a 40-0 win over Oak Hill. And I know those teams are not the best, but Polka ran into a good Chapmanville team last week. This one is at home, and it's on the grass, so that Polka grass one's a little slower than other grass. Believe me, I was there all last year.
Yeah.
I don't think this one is remotely close.
Independence.
Yeah, I gotta go with Independence. I'm a crazy guy, but I'm not that crazy. I can't pick. I love polka, but I just,
we love the dots on this podcast.
Yeah,
we love the dots.
And Jordan Wolf is a real gamer at quarterback, and he's a very solid runner.
But they're just not the same ever since the Paynes left.
Yeah,
they're just not the
that,
same.
I mean, that team was not all the Paynes, especially last year, but they had a lot of seniors last year.
Oh yeah.
But Independence, they're looking really, really good this year.
Yeah. I mean, I said it a couple weeks ago. I'm betting on Independence winning it all.
It's a smart pick.
Yeah, it's about time. Okay, kind of heading outside of West Virginia now. That's basically pretty much a slate of what we have going on here in the Mountain State tomorrow night. But we do cover Ohio and Kentucky as well.
Absolutely.
So we do have some area games in those states. Ironton is traveling to Johnson Central. Now, this game, I really hope we can somehow manage to get to, because I feel like it's going to be a very, very good game. Ironton is obviously a powerhouse. Johnson Central has been kind of that, miraculous story. They tragically lose their coach. They go on a tear, winning all their games last season. So it is at Johnson Central. It would be, yes. Okay. So it would be a big opportunity, for them to take down a powerhouse like Ironton. So I would definitely, I'm going with Johnson Central on this.
I'm going to go with that too. And I mean, it's easy to pick the home team in this one.
Right.
This is what I love about the Tri-State is that, so back where I'm from in Maryland, you look at these really good teams, they only play the Maryland schools.
Right.
Occasionally, like Martinsburg will play some Maryland schools, but those are mostly the ones on the border.
Right.
What we do right here is that we have border battles.
Yep.
And so we'll have, we'll have a Boyd County, we'll have them go over. I think Boyd County used to play Ironton a lot. Or Dawson Bryant. Yeah. And so Johnson Central, Ironton, which are probably two of the best teams, regardless of state, in this general area.
Right.
Johnson Central, they looked really good last year. Got to see them in the state championship game. They ran into a very good Boyle County team.
Yeah.
And then Ironton, I mean, their defense has been really good. I mean, look who Ironton has beaten. They've beaten Wheelersburg, a come-from-behind win at Jackson, and then they beat Fairland. They beat Fairland really good. Johnson, you look at who they beat. They beat a Lexington school 37-8. That Lexington school is 0-3, but at the same point, compare a Lexington high school to a Paintsville high school. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more kids in Lexington as opposed to a Paintsville.
Right.
And so that just goes back to that blue-collar mentality. Johnson is really solid. They beat a Louisville team 55-19.
Yeah.
And you're looking at a team from a small town crushing a suburban Louisville school.
Yeah.
That just shows how insane Eastern Kentucky football is. Pikeville's really good too. Hazard is really good. Perry County Central, I think that's the name of it. Greenup. We'll talk about them in a second. I go with Johnson County. I love Ironton football. They've got some real studs on that team.
I was going to say, the only hesitation I have with this one is Ironton does have, two guys that are going to, I think, Cincinnati and Georgia, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotta double check.
But, I mean, no, Wisconsin. It's Cincinnati and Wisconsin. So
that makes perfect sense.
I mean, they're going to, Power 5 programs. And they have a lot of talent. They're senior heavy. I mean, I know Ironton's pretty senior heavy, so I do think it'll be close. I think regardless, it's going to be a very close game. But I'm going with Johnson Central.
I took too much time with my Eastern Kentucky rant. I'm sorry for that.
No. What are you
those
talking
kids can
about?
play some football.
Yeah,
over there.
no, I love it. And kind of sticking over there, Boyd County at Greenup.
Well, we know who you're going to pick.
I know. Well, guys, I just love Boyd County. I love my Lions.
I think they love you. Well, that's the difference.
No, but I do love Boyd County. I think they're on a tear this year. Evan Ferguson, the head coach right there. This is the first year that he's had all of his own guys on his team because he started coaching 4 years ago. Yep. All these seniors that are now on his team. Now check this. Actually, this touchdown pass right here. That's a brother to a brother.
Oh, so, cool.
Yeah, they're very.
Looks like me and my brother.
They're very close. They have a lot of chemistry this year. They've played together now, as I mentioned, for 4 years with the same head coach. So these are all his guys. I'm gonna have to go with Boyd on this one.
Fancy you say that. So I'm gonna pick Greenup in this one. Greenup also.
Fancy you say that.
Greenup 3-0. This was 10-0 Boyle last year. Or Boyd.
Boyd.
I'm thinking of I said Boyle earlier in the show because when I was talking about Johnson Central. I'm gonna go with Green Up. They're 3-0. I think they're a really solid team.
Yeah. I mean, it's always fun when we split anyway.
Well, we gotta make sure one of us wins.
Yeah.
We can't go
So,
chalk.
this next one, South Point at Dawson Bryant. In parentheses, I have here, SP on a 2-game win streak. What?
We love to see South Point get back to their glory.
Yes.
Let's go.
The Pointers, baby. We love it. I'm going South Point in this one.
I'm not. I'm gonna stop you right there. Not so fast.
I mean, it's crazy. It's a crazy pick.
I feel so bad because we're hyping up. We're like, yeah, we love South Point. Kudos to them. And I'm like, I'm not picking them.
Yeah.
I think that's not an indictment on South Point at all. That's an indictment on how good Dawson Bryant is. So
they are very good. They're very
DB
strong.
won this game 29-14 last year. They have scored a lot of points this year. 43-6 against Bernie Union. 50-34 against Lucasville Valley. 61-34 to Megs. These kids know ball. They can score.
They're offensive powerhouse.
That's like when Spencer went to that game. He said, hey, they got a new scoreboard. They lit that scoreboard up.
Yeah.
So I think it's a win in Coal Grove.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I won't be shocked if Dawson Bryant wins. I'm just really excited about South Point. I think if their kids can step up and stop them, you never know.
We never want our teams, we don't want anyone to lose. But when you see teams that have been struggling for a while, when they start to win, it's awesome to see.
South Point is 2-0 right now. That's awesome.
There's no better story that I love doing than when you go to a practice where, say, the teams have been struggling, and then all of a sudden they start winning. To see the rejuvenation, they only won one game last year.
One game last year.
So to go to these practices and see how excited people are, that's awesome. That's what we like to see.
And that's kind of like Nitro too right now. They're 2-0. I mean, they're hopefully
the vibe at practice this year, I'm sure, was a lot better than what it was last year.
Oh yeah, so much better. And one note I did want, going back to Nitro, I did want to make, what's really lovable about this team too is Derek Lowe is a sophomore quarterback for the Wildcats. He got totally thrown into that game, like to the season last year. His brother Trevor Lowe was playing quarterback for Nitro last year. Trevor got injured with like 2 games left in the season, maybe 3. He injured his shoulder. Derek Lowe was actually the JV starting quarterback. They had 2 backups on the varsity squad, and they just kind of those 2 like weren't working out. So boom, went down to the JV squad and said, "Hey, Derek, come here, play under center for us." And he did really well. And that was as a freshman. Now he's a sophomore. He has some comfortability. Apparently, his brother Trevor is still around the program, giving him pointers and stuff. So I'm definitely rooting for Nitro. Definitely rooting for Nitro this year.
Don't say that to Joey Fields.
Oh, I know. He would kill me. Well, I still pick Hoover to win that one. I think they're very hungry, and I think they're going to ultimately end up winning that. But I am rooting for Nitro. All right, switching gears to college football. CFB, baby. Okay, big game. Zach and I are heading out. So tomorrow night, get this, we're anchoring the Friday Night Football show, then getting in the car at midnight, driving 7 hours to South Bend, Indiana, to see Marshall and Notre Dame go head-to-head.
God save us. You're driving. I'm just kidding.
No, I know. It's going to be rough.
So it's funny because, like, it's a big game for us.
Yes.
It's a big game for the players. It's a big game for the fans. It's not a big game for Coach Huff, apparently, which I don't...
Apparently not.
He can say all of that coach speak about it's one game at a time, and I get it, I understand it, but this is a big game. It's another day. It's another game for Notre Dame.
Yes.
Whatever. This is just this is their home opener.
I kind of disagree with that. Yeah, because it's not just another game for Notre Dame technically, because it's Marcus Freeman's like first game in Notre Dame Stadium.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very like they are hosting Marshall, and so fans might not be, but like it's Marcus Freeman. It's a new era for Notre Dame football. And so
yeah.
I do think it's going to be hard to play in that atmosphere. I think a lot of fans are coming out to that.
Yeah, but I do think this is a much bigger game for Marshall as opposed to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But you're right, and I respect that.
But I do think so. Obviously Notre Dame, they were ranked number 5, played number 2 Ohio State. That kind of bumped them down in the rankings. They ultimately lost that game. They did hold Ohio State though to only 7 points in that first half.
Yeah, and that's going to be an issue for Marshall, and this is going to be Henry Colombi's biggest test.
Yes.
And the stat line, he went 24 of 26, but there were a couple of plays that he should have made with wide open throws, and he did get a little antsy in the pocket running around, but that did show you off a little bit of his athleticism
Scramble,
there.
yeah.
So this is a big game for him.
Yeah.
Because the running game was at almost 400 yards against Norfolk State, and so the offensive line bullied them. We kind of expected that to happen. We expected Marshall to play a good game like that, but the offensive line, especially against that Notre Dame front seven, they are not going to bully them.
Yeah.
Ethan Payne was bullying Norfolk State. It's going to be very tough for him to do the exact same thing.
Right.
And I think this goes back to, Kalen Laburn gets a lot of touches because he has experience game planning against Notre Dame. He was at Florida State. Florida State played Notre Dame a couple times. I think that experience helps. But this is a big game for Henry Colombi.
Yeah.
Especially with, you don't know if the running game's going to be there.
Right.
So he's going to have to make some tough throws.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think how Marshall kind of stays in this one is they just run out the clock. They play, like Coach said, a 4-minute offense, just slow down the clock. And then on the defensive side, just, attack. I mean, hopefully, I don't say hopefully, but the left guard right now, I'm blanking on his name right now. I'll look it up. But that Jarrett, the left guard at Notre Dame, he has been injured and stuff. And in Marcus Freeman's press conference earlier in the week, he said he's still day to day. Obviously, if he's out, that will benefit Marshall. So we'll see what happens. Now the sports books and stuff have Marshall.
It's 20 and a half.
Point.
It went up to 20 and a half, which I don't know who decided. Just throw another half point on there. I didn't think it was going to be that high. And I know recency bias, whatever.
Jarrett Patterson.
Which is ironic because I know a guy with that name. But
Jarrett Patterson is the left guard over at Notre Dame.
But recency bias, we cover Marshall, so obviously we're going to expect Marshall to do well. I didn't think he was going to be 21. I thought it was going to be about 14, 15, something like that. Another big test to me is on the flip side, the Marshall front seven. Because Notre Dame breeds offensive linemen. Those northern schools, man, they get offensive linemen in the NFL. And so those guys, I didn't see how big the Norfolk State guys are, but these Notre Dame guys are probably at least 6'3", at least 300 pounds. And Marshall, the point of emphasis, Coach Huff said a lot this fall camp was he wanted to get a lot more defensive linemen in there because they only had about 6 or 7 guys dressed for the Louisiana game.
Yeah.
And so his big point of emphasis was getting more D-line guys in there. And Notre Dame's offense, they did struggle. They've got a young quarterback there. But if that offensive line bullies Marshall, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll be a battle in the trenches, and then, like you said, if Henry can connect on his throws, that's going to be those two things.
So who are you picking? Better yet, I think what we should pick is because
the points.
Yeah. Do we think they're going to cover the spread?
I do.
I do too.
I think Notre Dame will win this game, but I think it'll be a lot closer than people are giving Marshall credit for. I say 9, maybe 12 points.
Yeah. And I think the big thing on 20-point spread is, okay, you think it's going to be, 34-10 or 35-10. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think Marshall will score in that 10 to 20 range.
Yeah.
I don't expect Marshall's offense to explode like they did.
Yeah.
I just think it's too tough of a game, especially in a home opener. Notre Dame's not going to... Those players, man, they're motivated after that. I don't think they want to let them win. It could be a trap game. They've got Cal next week.
Yeah.
And I don't think Cal's very good, but that's just me. Your Beavs have a tough test in Fresno.
I know. Oh my gosh.
I meant to tell you that earlier.
I'm so excited about Oregon State, you guys. I went to Oregon State, for those who don't know. But I love my Beavs. We beat Boise State last week. It was awesome. Now, sticking with, so Notre Dame did play Ohio State last week. Ohio State will face Toledo at home this week. obviously this one's going to be a blowout, I think.
You know what's funny? Ohio State last year, we have a certain someone that used to go to Ohio State, and so we would hear all about it here in the 13th Port Zone. So I don't think a lot of people remember this, but Ohio State really struggled at the beginning of the year last year. They did lose to Oregon. They struggled against Tulsa. Tulsa's a good team. They struggled against Akron. And Akron is not a good team.
Akron, yeah.
Even though we love Kerry Martin.
Yeah. Kerry Martin, love you.
Yes, exactly. But if you're Ohio State and you're struggling, and they won that game pretty comfortably, but that was a close game for that first half. If you're Ohio State, you should never struggle against Akron.
Yeah.
And credit to the Zips, man. I've got a couple of friends that went there. But Toledo is one of the better MAC schools.
Right.
They've had a consistent football program. This ain't going to be close.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud, Travion Henderson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. That is probably the best.
I mean, even if Jackson is still out, because Jackson Smith,
get hurt,
he's been out. He got injured in the first quarter against Notre Dame, and he's been out. So, but even, I mean, if I were Coach Day, I wouldn't even play him in this one. Honestly,
I
would sit him.
You can make the case for that. I think that is the best quarterback, running back, wide receiver one combo in the entire country, bar none.
Yeah.
You can say Alabama,
I mean, it makes sense.
I don't think Jamar Gibbs is as good as Henderson.
Yeah, I agree. And then, of course, we'll close it out with WVU and Kansas. The Mountaineers coming off, as we said at the top of the show, a tragic loss in Pittsburgh. That was I want to go back to that. I know it stings you guys a little bit, but I'm just so bummed about that. I'm so bummed. Bryce Ford Wheaton, he was doing so well all game. We knew that, I knew in my heart that he did not want to lose that game. And, it was just so unfortunate. He scores, that had that great passing touchdown from JT Daniels in the corner of the end zone. Yep. They're right there. All the momentum, had all of it. And then the pick six that literally just went through his hands. Such a heartbreaker.
As a Maryland fan, and being from Maryland, I can't necessarily agree with you on some things, but I'm going to hold my tongue. Kind of a conflict of interest moving to here. But no, but I thought WVU and Spurs looked pretty good. And surprisingly enough, Tennessee's a 7-point favorite over Pitt this week.
Really? Okay.
I was going to say in Hines, but in Acrisure. I'm sorry.
Gosh. I had to correct myself quite a bit last week.
I was surprised by that. I didn't know if Pitt was going to be favored. It was kind of a toss-up to me, but I did not expect a touchdown favorite for Tennessee. They put up 59 against Ball State, but it's Ball State.
Yeah.
You don't think, when you think of football, you don't think Ball State. But I think WVU, they did look pretty solid at times. I thought Dante Stills, one of the best defensive linemen in the entire country. JT got rattled, and I think that was the big thing. His offensive line's got to help him out better. Pitt's got some studs on their D-line. John Morgan, a Maryland guy. I think he's from the DMV. So, but WVU, man, I think people aren't giving Kansas credit. It's easy to knock on Kansas. We love knocking on Kansas. But Kansas beat Texas last year. They've got a young quarterback, and that's their big thing. I think WVU is about a 7-point favorite in this one, but I think they get back on track. I really do.
Yeah, I mean,
they used to lose those games against FCS
You're
teams.
like,
They used to struggle. They used to barely win. Now they're winning by 46. So their head coach, Lance Leipold, he was at Wisconsin Whitewater, and if anybody knows D3 football like I do, Wisconsin Whitewater is the team along with Mary Hardin Baylor and Mount Union. Those are the three teams you hear every single time. So he went there, then he went to Buffalo, turned around Buffalo, and now he's at Kansas. And Kansas is probably the hardest Power 5 job in college football. Wake Forest is up there because it's just so hard to win at Kansas. They say people only go to the games to hold them over for basketball. Yeah. So, I'm giving Kansas a little bit of credit.
School.
I don't think West Virginia is going to lose this one. My only thing is, WVU fans, they expected to beat Pitt, so they think, or not, I'm not going to say they think, but it's easy to think, oh yeah, we're going to beat Kansas. Kansas stinks. Don't sleep on Kansas. It could happen. I'm not saying it's going to, but it could.
Yeah. I mean, I think West Virginia wins this one pretty comfortably. I think a lot of, as you said, WVU fans are pretty upset about that loss last week. I think they come out in droves, and I think they're excited to hopefully see their guys win. Obviously, everybody wants to see JT Daniels have success. A lot of people are concerned about him, you know, or not concerned, but just like don't know what to think about him yet. But like you said, I mean, it comes down to the offensive line. They got to help him out. Zach Frazier, get on him. The center, All-American center.
Yep.
Come on, get on your guys. Make sure they protect JT back there. But yeah, I mean, that about, I think, does it for us. Thank you for watching episode 2.
Yes, thank you so much for putting up with our voices.
I know, it's great. But so this was the live stream, or I'm going to go ahead and upload it to our YouTube and our website so you guys can check it out there. And then we'll have it on Apple and Spotify podcasts as well, so you can listen to it on your drive-in to work tomorrow and preview. Yeah,
We're going to have to listen to this on our way to Notre Dame.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, please pray for us driving all through the night and then getting like a 2-hour nap.
Yeah, please
before
pray for
the
us
Notre
driving
Dame
through Indiana.
game.
My times driving through Indiana have never been pleasant.
I've never driven through Indiana, so
Yeah,
this will
good
be a
luck.
first. Oh
Yeah,
gosh,
have fun
here we
with
go.
that.
Well, you'll be driving then.
If you want to hear me do stand-up comedy on all the states I've been to, that'll be a fun little ride.
You know what? Maybe, you know what? Another podcast idea. I like it. I like it. But all right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. We will see you possibly next Thursday. Maybe the
We'll see.
Thursday after.
Hope so.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.